Hello, and welcome back to our tutorial series, Blender Basics. Today on the series, we're going to do 3D text. Now, most times when people show Blender and they get into it, they get straight into doing polygonal modeling or sculpting, which is good. But the way I learned 3D was just doing basic kind of utility things that you would do in Photoshop, like creating text, creating motion graphics, and that's how I got into doing 3D. At the time I used 3D Studio Max, but we could do these things in Blender. And I think a lot of people they would like to know how to create text. They would like to know how to animate the text and different things like that. So today we're gonna focus on 3D text creation in Blender and how you go about doing that. So okay guys, so without further ado, we're gonna jump right in, and yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. So let's go straight to it. Okay, here we are on my desktop, and I'm going to launch Blender. Okay, so here's Blender. I'm just gonna make sure if this is the... Okay, so this is not the newest Blender. Let's see if we can get the newest Blender in here. I thought for a minute there I did. From the last okay, here we go. So so in the last video we downloaded Blender, and now we're going to create 3D text in it. Here we go. So this is in the newest Blender thus far, but you could work with any version of Blender. That's the great thing about it. So if you like an old version more than a newer version, you could stick with that. And most things in Blender would be more or less the same kind of operations. They don't change a whole lot. Okay, I know right now on the screen I am kind of blocking the main menu here, so maybe I should go over on the other side. Let's try it, guys. Here we go. I'm over on the other side. Maybe I should look at Blender. So let's do that. Okay, this is better. Ah, look at that. Okay, here we are. And I thought that would be a lot of fun to do that animation. Okay, so as we know, this is a 3D view right here in Blender, and we have the default cube, and if we click right here, we have the light that comes with Blender, and here we have a camera. Now I like the default cube, but for now we could get rid of it by selecting the default cube and pressing delete. And there we go. Press delete on the keyboard and it's gone. Now the thing to know about Blender is very shortcut driven. Well, what I mean by that is that the shortcuts that you use in Blender, they control a lot of the operation in Blender. Shortcuts are different keys you could press on your keyboard to get different things to happen in Blender. And I'll show you some of these shortcuts right now. So on your keyboard, if you press the N key while your mouse is in the 3D viewport here, in the layout tab in Blender, the layout tab workspace, press N, and what you get here, you get a right menu that shows a lot of options for any object that you have selected in Blender. And this is one of the main pop-out menus in Blender. So if you press N again, it will go away. Now the other menu is the T menu. That's for this tool shelf right here above my head. If we press T, it will go away, but then if you press T again, it will come back. And this is for your main tools that you're going to use in your 3D viewport. So let's get on to doing text. So in Blender, you can add objects like a text object to your 3D viewport in two ways. Now remember the keyboard shortcuts I was talking about, pressing different keys? if you press shift, if you hold shift down on your keyboard and you press A menu will pop up like this. And this menu is the add menu. And in this menu, you can add different objects to your Blender scene. The one that we're looking for is called text right here. So this is one. If you click the text button, it's going to create text. And the text is spelled out as text. Now to zoom in, if you move your mouse wheel up or down, you can get to zoom in or you can get to zoom out. So let's zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to hold shift down because that's my shortcut for navigation. Some people it's shift, some people it's alt or control. Press either button. If you hold down either button while holding down the middle mouse button, you'd get your navigation. I'm going to hold shift, and that's for my rotate. And if I just press the middle mouse wheel by itself, I get pan. I think yours might be to hold shift down, shift and middle mouse button to get pan, and just pressing your middle mouse button will give you rotate. Right, mine's is a little bit different because I like in the previous video, the basics video, I showed you how you could go into the edit menu right here, and you can change under preferences. You could change under preferences. And under key map right here, you can change the way that Blender navigates in your 3D window right here. And this is all the options. I'm not going to get into that because it's a little bit detailed and we were trying to keep things simple. So here we have text. Another way to add text to your scene. So I'm going to select the text here. I'm going to press the delete key. That's another key. Delete key on your keyboard will delete an object in Blender. Also, another key to delete things is the X key. I'll show you that with the other one. So for now, we're going to go up to the top menu right here, and there's an add section. If you click on the add right there and you scroll down, you get to see text. So this is another way. So the keyboard shortcut is shift A to get this add menu. Or you could go up here in the top menu under layout, and there's an add there also, and you could choose text and it will create the text. To delete an object, you press your delete key on your keyboard, or you can press X on your keyboard and Blender would ask you delete selected object, and you could press cancel if you don't want to do it and it wouldn't do it. Let's press X again, or you could press delete if you want to do it. So there's two keyboard shortcuts to delete objects. Delete key, the DEL key on your keyboard, which deletes it immediately, and the X key, which asks you a question about how you want it to delete it. So let's add back some text. You could go up here to the add menu and select text. So you go, there's mesh, there's curve, there's surface, there's metaball, and then under that there's text. So right now your text here in Blender is 3D, but it's very flat, right? If you rotate, if you hold your shift key and your middle mouse, or you just use your middle mouse button, whatever you use to rotate, it rotate, and you could see it's very flat. Text that we're trying to create here is something with more of a 3D look. Also called extruded. You know, we want it to have some depth. So over here under the properties menu, right, if you look to your right here, there's different tabs, and we went over this in the previous video. So the first tab is tool, the second tab is render, the other tab under that is output, then under that is view layer, then under that is scene, then under that is world, and under that one is collection. Collections are the way that Blender organizes the objects in the scene. Think of collections like bins or folders that you put stuff into to collect and to group together. Under that there's object, and under that there's modifiers, which is like this is a very important tab here under the properties menu, under the properties section. And then under that there's physics, under that there's constraints, and under that there's data. And if you look at the data, there's a letter A, like the text icon. So if we select that, it gives us the options for our text. So, and then under that is materials for when we want to add color and materials to the text. So I'm going to go back up to the data part here, and this is all you need to know about getting text done in Blender. This entire, when you click on that tab right here in the properties menu, it's going to give you all the text properties right here. So first of all, this is the topmost part here is the name of the text object, not necessarily the name of the text. You could click here and you could give it a different name. So let's think of like some really nice text to make. Let's see what would be a really nice text. Let's give me a second here. I'm thinking. Let's do the word apple. A. And I'm holding shift down because I want excuse me. I'm holding shift down to get a capital A, and then press P, P, L, E. So this text, I'm going to do apple, and then I'm going to do an underscore, and I'm going to do text. Right? So this is going to be our apple text. In order, and this is just the name of the object, right? But we want to change the actual word from text to apple. In order to do that, you have to go into edit mode. To go into edit, you can go into edit mode into selecting almost any object, whether it be a mesh object, whether it be a text object, or any other object, or hair object, or anything like that in Blender by pressing the tab key on your keyboard. That's the one way to get in here, to get into editing your models in the 3D viewport. Over time, we would go over the different objects that you could have in here, right? So if you have your text selected by clicking on it, or if you look here in the outliner, you'll see the word text is highlighted. If you press tab, the tab key, you see this cursor, and it's kind of like how you would type text, like in a text file or in a Word document or anything like that, or even online in a search engine. So I'm going to press backspace to get rid of this text, and you can see that that's blue line represents the cursor. So I'm going to type apple, A P P L E. So this is the text that we want to change into 3D. You could put your name. Say your name is David. There you go. David is another word. Or my name, xsinick, or I could just type Nick, N-I-C-K. But for now, we're going to use the word apple. Right? So when you're finished typing the word, you press the tab key again to come out of the edit mode, so you're no longer able to type in here. If you want to type again, you press tab again, and you get into where you could change the word, by typing it and by pressing backspace. You could even press enter if you want, and it will make a new line of text, and you could like apple, and I P-I-E, apple pie. See that? That's, matter of fact, apple pie is my favorite dessert, by the way. So, and then cherry pie and everything else. So what's your favorite dessert? Let me know in the comments below. So let's press backspace and go back. And we won't get into too much design of, typography and text design and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to rotate this a little bit so we could see it. So what you're seeing here is a 3D viewport, and this grid represents the floor of the 3D viewport. So right now it's on the floor, and we're looking down at it on the floor by rotating our viewpoint. Let's see if we could give this some depth and make it 3D. So in Blender, you just have to, if you're hearing like a siren out there, it's because I live next to a fire station, and then they have like, you know, rescue calls and stuff like that. But it adds a little spice to the tutorial, right? Okay, so under geometry, right? You have your text selected. Under geometry, there is different options, right? And you have an offset, then you have an extrude. So if we add some stuff to the extrude, you'll see it actually extrudes out. We add some values to the extrude. Let's put a value of 1. This is gonna be, and whoa, it gives it a whole lot of depth. That's a little bit too much. So let's try 0.1 and see what we get there. This is a lot better. So here we have 3D text already. And we could basically end the tutorial here for now. So, but this is how you get 3D text in Blender. I'm trying to keep it simple, guys. And then there's other options here for stylizing the 3D text. One option here is where you could add a taper object, and that's going to change the profile. There's also taper radius. And there's different kinds of bevels you could add here. So this is a round bevel. If you press object, then you're going to have to select the object that creates the bevel. And then profile, this is Blender built-in way to give a different bevel. And what a bevel is just a different extruded look to the edge of your 3D text. So I'm going to zoom into the A here. And I clicked on the profile. And let's just move some points and see what we get. Right now there's not much depth, but if we add some depth to the bevel, then you see like there's an edge right here because we did this, we moved this point. So let's move this point like this. Let's move another point like that. And you could create some interesting bevels by adding more points like this. Let's add that. Let's go up like that. Let's keep it like this. Let's do this. You know, and I'm moving this profile, and it gives us some very interesting bevels on both sides of the word. I like the way this looks. So far, guys, we typed some text, we extruded it, and we used the built-in profile on the bevel to give it a bevel. And the depth I put as 1. 0.01 actually. Let's put 0.02. Right, it gives it more of a beveled look, more of an edge, a nice fancy edge to it. And then this is the resolution. Let's turn this resolution up to from 4 to 8. Let's see what we get. Right, it gives it a little more solid appearance when you add your resolution, but don't add too much. So far this is our Apple text. Now we know that Apple text is on the ground. We want to make the Apple text stand on the ground. At least I would like it to stand upright. So what I'm going to do, after we finish doing this here and under the properties panel for the text right here, I'm going to go over to the left side of the screen above here in the tools and look for rotate, the rotate tool. So I'm going to go here on the cursor, then on the move, and then on the move right here is rotate. I select it, and here we have a rotation gizmo to rotate the word Apple. You could go ahead and rotate it along the red line here, which is the x-axis, until it looks upright like this. You see right there? So this is very cool, but I'm gonna press Control Z to undo that. Another better way to rotate it is by selecting the rotate icon here, and then remember that keyboard shortcut we said at the beginning to get the right menu for the objects. In that right menu, there's the transform and rotation and scale numbers for or values for the object. So I'm going to press N, right? And under item tab, I have the location, that's where it is, and the rotation, that's how it's rotated. And we know we want to rotate it along the red part here, which is the X axis, right? So I'm going to go under rotation under X here in the menu, click on it in order to activate it. And then I'm going to type 90 for 90 degrees and press enter. And all of a sudden it's upright. This is a nicer way to do it, because if you do it by hand, sometimes you might get it 100% upright. It might be slightly slanted, and it's important to get things nice and square and flush and perfect when you're dealing with things like text and that kind of thing at first, and then later on you could do things to messy it up if you want to. So this is our Apple text up here in Blender. Okay, so the other thing that you may want to do is to create something that looks more like a ground rather than this grid. In order to do that, we're going to add a plane object to the 3D viewport. So in order to do that, you could go ahead in the add menu, or you could use a shortcut Shift A to bring up the menu, the same add menu. And under mesh, there's a plane object. So go ahead and select that. And it creates this nice flat plane. But the plane is a bit small. We want it a lot bigger to make a bigger floor for our text. So it's kind of like we're making a room for the text. So what I'm going to do here, before we even continue, if you look, I'm actually blocking it right now. So let's see if I can move this here. Hold on. I'm always in the way, guys. I'm just gonna move across here for a minute. Okay. So if you look right here to the left of the screen, you'll see that there's, it will be something like this, like add plane options. Once you add the plane for the first time, you get these options. Now, if you click, it'll go away and you wouldn't get it back. So you would have to delete the object and then go back into the add menu, or press Shift A to bring up the add menu, go back to mesh and go back to plane, and it will appear right here. Then click on this menu right here to the lower left of the screen, and you could increase the size by holding size right here, moving from left to right. And you could create more of a size for the plane, so it's a bigger size. You could go ahead and select the move tool to your top left of your menu and select the word Apple, and you can then move the word Apple over to more center of the plane, and notice how the plane is cutting the word Apple off. So we're going to use we're just going to rotate a little bit till we see this blue arrow for the move tool, and we're going to move it up until the word Apple is no longer inside of the ground that we're trying to make. So this plane represents the ground, right? And this is a good practice that you can do over and over in Blender by selecting objects with the move tool selected and using the different colored arrows to move them in different directions. I'm going to select the green Y arrow here on the move tool to move the plane back a bit. Right, so there's more of a back to where the word Apple is. Right, so I'm going to show you how to make this into like a photographic studio for the word Apple. Now remember earlier we pressed the tab key on your keyboard, tab, T-A-B. We're going to press that with the ground selected, and then you see that there's 4 points to the plane. If you zoom out with your middle mouse button by scrolling the wheel up and down, you can zoom in and out. I'm going to select the 2 top points right here, and then I'm going to press a special key that helps you make more of the 3D mesh. It's called extrude. So I'm selecting these 2 points right here, and then I'm going to press the E for extrude. And then after I press E, then I'm going to press Z to show the direction I want to extrude it in. And then I'm just going to move my mouse from left to right or up and down, and then I'm going to press, then I'm going to click when it's finished. When I move it high enough, click right there. So right there we have like a back for our word apple. Then I'm going to go back and select the two middle points right here, right? And I'm going to press another key to make something special, to make another special mesh edit. This, because we're editing the mesh now of the ground. And this is a little bit advanced, so you could feel free to slow down this part of the tutorial and watch it over and over again. I'm going to press Control and then the B key. And you notice that it forms this line to my cursor. And if I move the cursor from left to right, you notice it kind of cuts and makes like a slanted extra piece for the background. So right now it's beveling. That's what Control B means. B is bevel. And then I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel to add more cuts like this. So I scroll it a couple times, then I'm going to press my left mouse button to confirm it, and it brings up all these options right here so that we could adjust these things. If you want right here, you could adjust the width of how it's beveled and how many segments is divided. I'm going to add a little more segments, and then that's it. And then after that, I'm going to bring my cursor back into the viewport and press Tab to come out of it. And the object is still selected. So now this is another option you could bring up by pressing the right mouse button on your keyboard. Sorry, on your mouse. Press the right mouse button on your keyboard. Press the right mouse button on your mouse and it will bring up this menu. And this menu here is for the object you have selected. So I'm going to choose Shade Smooth. And all of a sudden it's going to make the object look smooth. You could do that with any object in Blender. I'm going to select the word apple now by clicking on it. Then I'm going to right click and it brings up a whole different set of menu options only because it's a text object for now. If it's a mesh object, it's going to be something different. But for now, this is what we want, right? I'm going to zoom in where it looks really nice, right? The word apple. Let's add some color to this. I'm going to scoot over to the side again here, guys. I know I'm moving around a whole lot. Okay, so let's add some color to this. So to add color to this, you need to be in a special mode in the viewport. Let's go over to the shading tab of Blender. So I'm going to press the word shading up here to the top, shading tab, and we're in the shading tab room. So in this room here, it's, you know, you could move your viewport however you want it, like now. And it's going to be slightly shaded. Everything looks white, but let's put the background one color and we're going to put the word apple a different color. So I'm going to select the background by clicking on it, and then you're going to see like an orange outline on whatever you have selected. And here we're going to add a material. We're going to use the shader editor to add a material. If you want, over here to in the properties panel to the right, you could go all the way to the bottom and you'll see something that looks like a red ball with like checkers in it. That's the material properties. You could click on that also. So right now you see there's two buttons here. One is new and one is new, and these buttons allow you to make a new material. So if you go to this menu, the properties menu right here, for the material of the plane that you have selected, click on new, and it will actually create a shader editor network here showing you how this shader right here is built. I like to work in this mode right here to add colors to things. So we press new and it added like a new material. So just like for the object apple, we're going to come right here under where the word is like material 001, which is not very readable. I'm going to click on that. And remember, if this is a lot fast and advanced, feel free to repeat the video, slow it down, pause it, and watch the steps over again. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this ground. That's for the ground, or background rather. Let's call it background. So we're going to add a background material. So there's the word background, and we have the material here. If you look under the material, you see something called surface, and under surface you would see surface, and it's a principal BSDF. We could get into that later. It's to do with the type of shader it is, or type of material it is, and under that is base color. Now the base color would give it its actual color. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings up this color wheel. In the color wheel, I'm going to change the background to, let's give it a nice, maybe a nice green. So I'm going to bring the circle over here, and I'm going to bring down the value right here by clicking on, dragging on it. I'm going to make it like a dark green, right, for apple, for apple background right here. And so to control the shading in here, what Blender did is, if you look to the top menu right here, to the top right of your screen in the viewport, you'll see that there's different shading modes. So, and they're represented by 4 different circles up here. The first circle is for wireframe. So when I click on that, everything looks like wires, right? Wireframe is important when you start modeling more complex objects and characters and all that for later. Then the other shading mode here is called solid. So click on that. That's a fast shading mode for when you're modeling and creating objects for the first time. And that's what we did in the layout room. If you click on layout, right to the top left here, to the top of your screen here, you go back into the layout tab room, and the layout room here is already in solid shade mode, right? And that's what we use to create the object, and it's very quick, and it makes your computer move very quickly and very fast, and that's what you want. But let's go back under the shading tab to the top of the screen here to get back our shading interface, right? And then you notice that the shading options up here are all the same throughout the 3D viewports, right? So the next circle next to it is called material preview. So if you click on that, then you start to see color, and this is a quick way to preview your materials in Blender, right? And this is what we could use to add quick fast colors, and even I think even textures work under this. And then after that, next to it is called render. So this render circle is going to show you a render in the viewport based upon what renderer you have selected in the right menu, properties menu right here. Remember the different tool tabs here. Right now we're in the bottom one called materials, but the top one is called tool. If you click on that, that's the tool we have selected in the viewport. And then under that is render. So right now it is set to Eevee. So if we turn on the last circle here, it's going to show us an Eevee render in the viewport. So let's click on it. That's what Eevee rendering looks like in the viewport. Now if we under render engine, if we change it to cycles, it's going to show us what cycles render looks like in the viewport. And I always like the way that cycles look. Eevee, in order to preview things properly in Eevee, you need a really nice graphics card on your computer for it to show really nice shading. But cycles work with almost any computer because it's not real time. At least not real time as Eevee. It's a little bit real time though. So under the render engine right here in this tab, render tab, you have supported feature set right here, feature set, and you see supported. Then you see device, and I have CPU. And this is the safest way to do it. But the fastest way to do it, if you have a good graphics card, is to change CPU to GPU compute, and it will render in here faster. Right? These are some of the things that if you set up once in a file like this, you could keep opening the file up and changing your objects in it. That's one way, but we could get into that later as we're just talking about text. So under here, under the sampling options here, under viewport, there is noise threshold, and that's checked off. It's working based upon the noise threshold right here, this value. I'm going to turn that off. And you notice that things get a little bit grainy. I have a NVIDIA graphics card. You could try this in your computer, and if it doesn't, and if it looks weird in your screen, go back from GPU compute to CPU compute and everything should work better. But it will be a little bit slower. So under samples, instead of 1024 samples, I'm going to turn mine down to 64 because I know that works. 64 samples, and then I'm going to turn on this button, this option here called denoise. And what denoise does is clean up any kind of speckles. Okay guys, so right here, this is the way I like to add materials in Blender, right? And you could rotate in this view here like this. And when you stop rotating, it's going to resolve the object. So let's add color to our word, to the apple right here. So I'm going to click on the word apple. You see it's highlighted orange now, and you could see it. And remember last time in the properties menu to the right here, we were on the last tab, which is materials. And you could click either here in the node editor or here in the materials. But let's stick with the material properties right here. Click that, click new. And we just added a new material to the wood apple. The thing is that the material is white. So I'm going to change the wood from white to red. And I'm going to go with a bright red. I'm going to turn the red. It's never good to use like completely 100% red. It's always good to turn the value. This slider here is the value of that red, whether it be darker or lighter. I always like to go a little bit darker and just kind of use a slightly different kind of red. So here we go, guys. Right here, we created the wood apple, and it's in 3D, and we have a material. Now, let's try to make the word apple look a little more metallic. So if you look here in your material, in your shader node editor right here, there's this these boxes right here. This is for the final output of the material. This is programmatic, you know, and then this is the actual material, right? And under here you see something called metallic. So if you turn up metallic all the way up, you notice that the apple gets shinier. If you turn the roughness down, it'll get even more shiny, where it's almost like a glass mirror where it shows you the environment. So I'm going to give it a little bit of roughness. Let's say a roughness of 0.2. And metallic, I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. Let's go 0.6. Right, so we do get some highlights, some little specular highlights right here. If you want to, make sure your roughness is 0.2, guys. Okay, yeah, we got some highlights happening here. And to make this look even better, we have to control our lighting, right? So far, so good. I'm going to go over back to layer. We could stay in here, but we could zoom out until we see all lights. So you zoom out, and then if you use shift, you can see the light right here. If you can't see it in your viewport, look over right here under your outliner, and you see the word light. Select that, and this will control the light in the scene. Now remember that tab where we have the rotation and different things? So that's the N key on your keyboard. We have the light selected, and under item we have the rotation of the light right here. So I'm gonna rotate the X and see what we get. Not much. Rotate the Y, see what we get. Not much. I'm gonna scroll on the Z. Not much. And the reason why you don't get that, because this type of light is literally like a light bulb, like a little point, and there's no direction to it. It just lights based upon the position of it. To change that, let's change the light. If you go back to your properties panel right here, you notice it changed on the data to the light properties. And if you look here to your right, you'll see there's a point light, there's a sunlight, a spotlight, and an area light. Let's use the sunlight. Whoa, it's so bright. We select sun and it's very strong. So right now my sunlight is at 1000. So let's turn that down a bit. Let's try 1. Ah, okay, that's a little bit better. Let's turn it up a little bit brighter than that. I'll tell you what value I'm using. Okay, let's use the value of 3. Right? And now we could do rotation. So if I go back to this menu here in the viewport and I rotate it, you'll see that the direction of the sun can rotate. So let's rotate it along the Z and along the Y a little bit. Now I'll give you values right now so you could type the values into the rotation right here. Okay, so the first value for the X, do 20 degrees. The second value, let's go 45. Oh, minus 45 actually, minus. So you press minus on your keyboard and then press 45 and then press enter. And you get minus 45 degrees here. Let's see. Let's go for 90 degrees on the Z. Okay, now you could use your keyboard, your mouse middle key to pan, and you could zoom in by scrolling and get on the word Apple right there. Now if you notice the backdrop, the green backdrop, let's select that. That material is really shiny. So in order to get rid of that, you got to turn up the roughness a little bit. And let's turn up the roughness to 0.6. And then now is where we just play back and forth with the different options here under the materials. So you could select the word Apple and you get back the Apple material. Let's change the name from material 001 to Apple. So you just have to come where there's the word material 001 right here. Click on it and then type the word Apple. I'm going to do an underscore and press MAT for material. Press enter. Now the material is called Apple Matte, Apple material. And you could play with the roughness of this. Let's do a little more roughness. There you go, Apple. You can even play with the color if you want. Change the color to like that. You can play with the color right here by clicking on the base color right here or over there in the material properties, or right here under the node. I like to be in the node. Let's go back to that red. And how about instead of the background being green, let's select the background. Let's change the background to maybe like a white or something. So I'm going to bring this in the middle here. Get it kind of whitish. Come over here and maybe I'll turn the roughness down to get some of that reflection happening. Let's go like a 0.5 here. Let's go back to the word Apple and try to make that a little bit more red, so it sticks out. I'm gonna turn down the value on that. Let's go a little more red. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the first step, guys, in being able to do 3D text in Blender. Now, the thing is with this is great. You may want to change the have different colors on the word apple. And in order to do that, you could do it in two different ways. I know we're getting a little bit advanced here. So I'm going to press N to get rid of this menu, right? One way we could do it is by converting the word apple. Once you're happy with it, you could convert that to you could convert it from a text object to a mesh object and then apply a new material to the parts you want white or green or black or whatever color you want. Another fast way to do it, and I don't normally do it this way, but this is pretty fast. You can make a duplicate of the word here and have that be a different color, right? So let's do the duplicate way. It's not the way that I normally do, but it's definitely a faster way. So in order to make a copy of this word here, okay, select the word apple, right? And we're going to use a keyboard shortcut, or you could go up here in this object menu right here in your viewport and scroll down and do duplicate objects. And it made a duplicate, and the duplicate is going to stick to your mouse. So what you're going to do is to right click and it's going to go back in place. So if you look here in your outliner, you'll see something called text 01, and that's the duplicate, right? Now let's go back under the properties menu right here and select the data, which is like a green letter A. Select that. And here under geometry, let's change the geometry of this other text in here. First of all, let's put the profile back to round, right? And let's extrude it a little bit more. Right now our extrude is 1. Let's try 0.2 instead of 0.1. Right? It extruded it out a little bit. That's a little bit too much, so instead of 0.2, that's 0.15. Let's go, instead of 0.15, let's go 0.12. So it's like 0.12. That's a lot better. And under depth here, under round, let's put 0. Okay, and let's give this selected text a different color. And you can do that by duplicating this material by coming into the node editor, right, the material node editor. And if you go on the top menu here, you see slot 1, then you see like a circle, then you see the name of the material, then you'd see something like a 2, then something that looks like a shield, and then something next to it that looks like 2 pages. And that's what you want to click on, and it will make a duplicate of it, right? And you see it gives it the name Apple Mat 001, and we could leave it like that for now. And instead of the red color, let's give it a different color. Let's go like something like yellow, a little brighter. Okay, we're still not seeing it. Let's see. Let's give it a little more depth. And that was the trick right there. Just giving it a little bit more depth, guys. Let's go 0.15. Let's try that. Okay, so I give it the depth. So this new text has the extrude under geometry. Under extrude is 0.15, and we gave it like a yellow color. I'm gonna go kind of yellowish green, probably more to white. You could change the colors to make it look more like an apple. Instead of apple, it's kind of whitish. So whitish, kind of yellowish, maybe a touch of green. Whatever, you could do whatever you want and have it look, like it should. I'm gonna turn the metallic down on that a bit. Turn up the roughness a bit on that. And there's so many options under this principal BSDF shader right here, this box. There's things like subsurface. If you look under basic color, you see base color. Then you'll see metallic, roughness. Then IOR under that. Then under that is alpha. And then under that is normal. And under that is diffuse and subsurface. If you click on that, you could give this some subsurface scattering, which is a more advanced shader technique to give things sort of like a wax appearance or any kind of thing where light passes through it. Like when you slice an apple, there's definitely like some level of transparency, subsurface to it, you know. And you mostly see that if there's a light piercing through it, you'll mostly see that sort of thing happening. But we don't have to get into all that. There's so many options here to give your materials a different look. But we're just going to stick with the regular color right here. And this is the word apple. Let's go back to the background. I'm going to select it. Let's change it green. Now, you don't have to follow my colors 100%. You could just color it in a way that you like it. You know, and that's the fun thing about doing 3D and that kind of thing. Okay, guys, so this is what we have here. We have the final word apple. And I'm going to press a shortcut on my keyboard to get this to be the full screen, which is Control Shift, so Control Spacebar, and it will make that view big in the entire, you know, view, so that you can see everything. Once you have your mouse over whatever window in Blender, you can press that Control Spacebar and it will make it big. If I press Control Spacebar again, it's going to go back to the normal way. If I bring my cursor down into this view here and I press Control Spacebar, it's going to make this view big, so you could just work in this view. And if I press it again, Control Spacebar, it's going to go back to the normal view. You could do that with any window here in Blender. I put my cursor over here into the outliner, Control Spacebar. The outliner fills up the whole view, Control Spacebar, and it goes back. So let's go Control Spacebar in the viewport here so we can get the full word apple. Okay, guys, so that's the 3D text in Blender. I'm just doing a little bit of rotate so you guys can see it. So you could see that it's actually a 3D object in Blender. So yeah, that's it for now, guys. You know, we'll probably dive into maybe doing some animation with it next time, or adding some particles, and we'll get into a little bit more interesting topics. But I think this is a good first start. So if anywhere along the lines of me explaining and showing how to do this, you get lost, feel free to pause the video, go back, take a look. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. God bless you. And take it easy, and thanks for stopping by. Please tell a friend, anyone that's trying to get into Blender, to learn how to get this stuff done. Please let them know about it, and I'll see you guys later. Okay, God bless, and take it easy. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Okay, bye bye. See you in the next one.